I know we still have some people logging in, but I like to respect everyone's time who was here on time. So I am going to get started. So welcome to Exemplify for March 2023. My name is Melissa Maloney. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Select Path, and I am very excited to introduce our speaker for today. I get to introduce Lisa Spriet, who is a registered dietitian and the co-owner of NutriPro-Can, a company of registered dietitians. Throughout her undergraduate and postgraduate studies at Western and the University of Guelph, Lisa studied biochemistry and genetics, nutraceutical sciences, and nutrition and dietetics. At the same time, she began her career in health and fitness, building a successful personal training business. She processed the work in clinics, gyms, and biotechnology. She proceeded to work in clinics, gyms, and biotechnology and to teach nutrition sciences at Brescia University College. Passionate about driving social change towards nutrition and building her own signature programs, Lisa became one of the founders of Nutrition Professionals of Canada in 2015, now operating as NutriPro-Can. Lisa is a lecturer, speaker, coach for individuals and group programs, and works with businesses and organizations developing nutrition programming. She thrives on creating partnerships with others in the health and wellness arena. In her free time, Lisa loves to explore in the markets, cook, spend time among her favorite fitness activities, running, skiing, hiking with her dog Leo, and spending time with family and friends at home or exploring the world. And I am excited to pass this over to Lisa so that she can talk to us about emotional eating.
Thank you for that, Melissa. And I'm going to try the fancy new screen share that I've been talking about only sharing a portion of my screen. So we're going to give it a shot. Hopefully it works for everybody. Here we go. And
I think it's the wrong portion though, Lisa.
The wrong portion. That's not what I wanted to do. Let's try this.
But it does mean we can all see Charlie.
Yay! Yes, so she's apparently trying to start the non-electric bike as she would the snowmobile, because she was just on the snowmobile. There we go. I think I'm gonna get it now. Give me just a minute. We're doing it. Yay! I know I can't try this like the first time, but it just seems so cool. I've never figured this out. For anybody who has used Zoom before, we're like, Lisa, this is not very new. So thank you for that intro, Mel. So yeah, we're going to talk about taking control of emotional and stress eating today, learning about what it is, as well as how to overcome it. So outline, do you suffer from emotional and stress eating, and how does it affect us? What exactly is it? And then how to overcome it, and how some foods might help. So in terms of emotional eating, I want you to stop and self-reflect for a moment and think, do these sound familiar at all? I know what to do, but I don't know how to do it. So I know I need to stop eating a bag of chips at night. I just don't know how to stop myself. Once I start eating X, I can't stop. Once I start on the chocolates, game over, it's done. I didn't plan to eat X, insert pizza, popcorn, whatever it is, but I couldn't help myself. I need a latte. I need a donut. I need that mid-morning or mid-afternoon treat to get me through my next meeting. I can't wait to get home tonight and chill with a bag of chips on the couch. So some of these might sound familiar. And there's a quiz that we will send out as part of the handout for today as well, that has some more questions to help you self-reflect on your emotional eating and stress eating habits. These are things that quite often many of us think about or feel, but we think about it in a fleeting way. We're like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, I'll go back to my chips. And as we'll talk about, when we focus on making dietary changes, we often focus on like, oh, I just need to stop eating the chips. I need to eat more vegetables. And we don't think about the why behind it. Why are we eating those chips? And for the most part, emotional eating, stress eating is eating for any other reason apart from our true physiological needs. Why does it matter? Why are we talking about it today? So these are some dieting stats and figures. So the prevalence of obesity in Canada, and this is rising. So 67% of male adults in Canada are overweight or obese, 54% of females. This is increasing, so it's not getting better. Of those adults, 70% are trying, so 70% of women and 48% of men are trying to lose weight. So there's obviously a missing link here. If we have this many people who are overweight, this many people who are trying to lose weight, what exactly is happening? Well, what we are finding out is that really focusing on weight loss itself probably isn't enough. Some more stats. Skyrocketing rates of obesity are not from a lack of trying. So we have over $60 billion spent annually, keeps increasing on weight loss. So whether that's food and supplements, weight loss services, diet programs, books, apps, podcasts. I mean, there's a gazillion number of apps and books and podcasts out there now that focus on weight loss. We are trying, we are spending a lot of money in this area, but for whatever reason, it's not working, or maybe it works for a little period of time and then it stops working. So why is this? Well, we know from research that diets, the slang term that we use for diets, don't work. They've really failed us. And why is that? So there's a physiological effect to dieting that makes it not work, and there's a psychological effect to it as well. So the physiological effects, this is kind of the yo-yo diet. So we hear about this new diet. It's keto, it's intermittent fasting, it's whatever it is. I'm going to start it. This is awesome. I'm going to follow this diet. We start eating in a very restrictive manner, cutting back on calories. We slow down our metabolic rate. Typically when we lose weight, there are ways around this, but typically when we lose weight, we lose about 50% muscle, 50% fat. We slow down our metabolic rate. We can't follow this diet because it's not maintainable. We're super hungry. We haven't addressed emotional or stress eating. We go back to normal dieting. We gain even more weight because we've slowed down our metabolic rate. The next diet comes along, we keep going. The end result of this is additional weight gain, as well as muscle loss, which is the loss of a metabolic rate. And then we know that there's also this psychological effect, that it is, I get excited about a new diet. It will solve all of my problems. And then I get sad or I feel bad and I eat food, which is fairly normal. I feel bad about my body. I feel guilty. I must have no willpower. I can't do this. I'm just going to eat even more. There's just no point at this point. And you fail, whatever this new diet is. And then the next one comes along. So yeah, there's both physiological and psychological effects as to why diets don't work. We're going to focus a little bit more in on the psychological effects and what we can do about it. So what is that missing link? Eating behaviors. We focus in on the actual foods and don't think about the behaviors. So what are some of these eating behaviors that we need to think about? Mindless eating, stress eating, environmental influences, which we'll talk about a little bit today, but not a ton, and emotional eating. So by focusing a little bit more in on our eating behaviors and the things that drive our eating behaviors, we're going to be better at following whatever our goals are when it comes to nutrition, whether it's eating more vegetables or not eating the bag of chips. So what makes us eat? We have our physiology. So that is lowering blood sugar levels, feeling hungry, your stomach's growling, your mouth is watering. That's our physiology. That's a true need for food. That does drive us to eat. But most of the time, the true reasons why we eat are more due to our thoughts or our emotions. So, I think it would be a good idea to eat this, or I feel bored. I want to entertain myself with something. Let's go to food. Or situational. So I'm at a party. Everybody else around me is eating these hors d'oeuvres. I'm going to eat them. Or it's Easter and there's chocolate eggs everywhere. Well, I'm going to eat those. And then environmental society. So marketing telling us what we should or shouldn't be eating. We quite often don't think about these things. We just think about the act of eating. We think about the behavior of eating, and we get mad at ourselves because we're not able to follow whatever type of dietary approach we'd like to follow. In terms of how much emotional eating does impact our eating behaviors, research shows that about 75% of overeating may be linked to emotional eating. So that's a big portion of overeating. And if I was going to say to you today, like, can we correct your unintentional poor eating habits by 75% today just by addressing emotional eating? Most of you would say yes, like that's huge. I mean, there's other things that can lead to it, of course, but that's a big impact, 75%. So what is emotional eating? There's a lot of potential definitions out there. And if you look at the research, you'll come across other ones, but I liked these points. So emotional eating is eating in a way to suppress or soothe negative emotions, such as stress, anger, fear, boredom, sadness, or loneliness. It's often referred to as comfort eating. So it's usually going for foods that are typically higher in sugar or fat. From a physiological standpoint, they do make us feel good. So cookies, cakes, pastries, chips, candy, chocolate. Stress eating is a very common type of emotional eating, and is one thing that we will be digging into today as well. So this is the emotional eating cycle. And what we're going to work on is really breaking this cycle. So how does emotional eating work? Well, we have some sort of trigger. So it could be that we feel bad about something. Maybe we had a meeting that didn't go the way that we wanted it to. Maybe somebody said something to us that hurt our feelings. Maybe you feel bad about not being able to follow the latest keto trend or whatever it is, but we have this bad feeling. There's a lot of other emotions out there, but which the label is bad. We reach for a comfort food. So you know what, eating some chocolate, it does feel great in the moment. It makes me feel better. I temporarily feel good. I feel relieved. I feel comforted. But then the shame, guilt, remorse sets in. So, oh my gosh, why did I eat all of that ice cream? I was just gonna have a small bowl, and now it's all gone. Felt good in the moment. Now it does not feel good. But you know what? I don't know what else to do. I've already failed whatever this diet is. I'm just gonna eat more. That'll make me feel better. It doesn't. We feel bad. We keep going through this cycle. How does stress play a role in this? So again, stress is a really common source of emotional eating. Stress has both a physiological and psychological effect on our eating habits. So I want to get away from the idea of stress as being solely bad. So we actually need a little bit of stress in our lives. And from a physiological standpoint, this is what causes adaptations if we're trying to run faster, a little bit of stress. The same thing from a psychological and emotional standpoint, sometimes a little bit of stress can help us to adapt. It can be a good thing. It's challenging. It keeps us engaged. However, having too much stress can lead to anxiety, can lead to some emotional eating. High stress can lead to decreased immune function, infertility, gastrointestinal problems, exhaustion, imbalance of normal blood sugar levels, irritability, weight fluctuations, heart disease. It goes on and on and on and on. However, I want to focus in a little bit more on how it affects us in terms of emotional eating. Oh, that turned out really small. That should be bigger. Anyways, what we're looking at here is the chart of high versus low GI foods. Glycemic index is a measure of how quickly our blood sugar levels rise and then fall after eating a carbohydrate-containing food. When we feel stress, It affects how our bodies metabolize the food that we consume. In addition, when we feel stressed, we often respond to that by craving high carbohydrate, high glycemic foods. So what happens here? We feel stressed. We eat a high glycemic food, that's that red line on there. It gives us this big surge in blood sugar levels. Why? Well, stress used to be a response that would lead to us to do something physical. So stress used to be, I'm being attacked by a lion, I must run. These days, stress is more psychological. We don't run when there's a meeting that we just had that didn't go so well. We sit there and we brew. We still get those cravings for those high sugar foods. We tend to go for them. It gives us that big burst in blood sugar levels. But then what that leads to is that crash. With that crash, that actually leads to additional stress, more cravings for that food. And again, that kind of food and emotional roller coaster of like stress, feeling good, and that up and down in blood sugar levels. However, if we do eat more of those lower glycemic foods that we'll be talking about towards the end, we can help to balance out our blood sugar levels and create more resiliency and endurance to keep our blood sugar levels in check. It's not that stress is not going to come, but we're going to help deal with a little bit better. So this is just a recap of what I just said. So why do we crave certain foods when we're stressed? So stress, which can also be combined with poor nutrition intake. So think of, I skipped breakfast, I come into a meeting, I'm not prepared, things are not going my way, I have the stress being added to that. So we get that fluctuation in blood sugar levels. We grab the donut that's sitting on the table. It leads to that spike and then a crash. And then by about 10 a.m., we're craving something. We're like, oh my gosh, I need some more sweets. I need some more food. I need some more coffee. And it leads to the cycle again. Before we get into talking about overcoming emotional eating, I want to spend some time talking about the types of hunger. And this is important because we don't give ourselves time to stop and think about, why am I hungry right now? What is going on? We just typically eat. So these are not the true like physiological terms for why we eat, but I like using them. It's actually helpful to use these terms with kids if you're talking to them about choosing certain foods. We have three types of hunger, so mouth, stomach, and heart hunger. So stomach hunger is true physiological hunger. So this is, I haven't eaten in a little while, my tummy is grumbly. When we have true physiological hunger, really we should be getting foods that meet our nutritional needs, that give our body the nutrients that we need to do the things that we want to do. We also have mouth hunger. So this is a specific craving. So this is like randomly, oh, I want something sweet. Where did that come from? I want something crunchy. I want something salty. It can be due to the smell or seeing a tempting food. Usually when we do go to eat, we have both stomach hunger and mouth hunger going on. So my tummy's growling, plus I feel like eating such and such. We can't have mouth hunger without stomach hunger. So I just ate a full dinner and I still want some chocolate. And we can have stomach hunger without mouth hunger. So that's kind of like when you know you're hungry, but you don't want anything or everything seems unappealing. And then heart hunger. So heart hunger is eating to fill an emotional void or as part of the habitual routine, such as dessert after dinner. Heart hunger, again, we can have irregardless of stomach hunger or mouth hunger. It can be a very strong urge. I like this chart to help you distinguish between stomach hunger and emotional hunger. And maybe the next time some sort of craving or urge to eat hits, you can think about, okay, what is this? So what is physical hunger versus emotional hunger? So physical hunger can wait. So we could actually put off physical hunger. So that's like stomach growling, you know what, my meeting's still going on. It's okay, I can wait a little bit longer. Where emotional hunger feels like it needs to be satisfied instantly. I need to stop at the drive-thru now. I need to go to the cupboard and get chocolate. I need to that chocolate bar that's in my desk drawer. Physical hunger is open to options. Lots of things sound good. Sometimes this can be trouble too. We're like, I could eat this, or I could eat this, or I could eat this. I don't care. I just need some food. Where emotional hunger is very specific. So it's, I need that specific donut from this store, or I need chocolate. Usually, again, it's mixed with some sort of habits in there as well. Physical hunger stops when you're full. So I've eaten 3/4 of my meal. I feel good, not hungry anymore. I'm going to stop. Where emotional hunger isn't satisfied with a full stomach. We can just keep eating as long as that emotion keeps going. Physical hunger doesn't make you feel bad. So eating to satisfy doesn't make you feel bad about yourself. So it's, you're hungry, you're going to eat. It feels good, your stomach feels full. Okay, let's move on. Where emotional eating triggers feelings of guilt, powerlessness, and shame. So perhaps if you're eating lunch now, think about your why, or maybe this afternoon when you're having a snack, or this evening. There is a survey that we'll send it as part of the handout for this that does ask you. It's a scoring system. I think it's important to go through it just for an awareness piece. So you can do that afterwards. But let's dive into 5 proven steps to overcoming emotional eating. So as Mel mentioned, I work with a group of dietitians. Emotional eating is something that we work on with clients a lot, whether it's for weight loss or blood sugar health or just overall healthy eating. It comes in many, many different ways to us. And so these are 5 steps that we have come up with that we work through with clients, but you are welcome to work through them on your own as well. We also have a self-service option on our website. We have a course on emotional eating if you do want to do that yourself. Okay, so step 1, eat regular satisfying meals, moderate hunger, stomach hunger, identify your triggers and raise awareness, find other ways to feed your feelings, pause when a craving hits, knowing that it will, and practice intuitive eating. Okay. I will talk about some foods at the end as well. So step 1, eat regular satisfying meals and moderate hunger. So if you have stomach hunger going on and you are triggered with emotional hunger, or you're trying to overcome emotional hunger, it's kind of game over. So being hangry, having true stomach hunger, it's really hard to think straight and overcome emotional hunger. So our key that we want to do is balance out our blood sugar levels. We want to make sure that we're eating balanced meals that aren't cutting out specific food groups, so that we have protein, we have complex starches or carbohydrates, as well as fruit or veggies. That we're balancing our snacks, that we're not just grabbing, say, an apple for a snack or a donut, that we're having maybe an apple and some cheese or some nuts. And that we're listening to both our hunger and fullness cues. So what do I mean by that? I really like using this scale. So this is the hunger fullness scale, where 10 is painfully full and 0 is painfully hungry. So we want to kind of stick in the 4 to 7 zone. It just allows us to better control our food choices. So food is kind of hunger awakens. So, oh yeah, I could definitely eat something. I could wait a little bit longer, but I could definitely eat something. And then eating till we're just satisfied. So we're going to be talking about some mindful eating, and using this hunger satiety scale is a really important part of that mindful eating. So eating slowly, paying attention to how your body feels. Again, if we are over hungry, we really cannot address emotional eating very well. And if we're over full, the issue with this is quite often it comes along with feelings of guilt or remorse. Not great. Step number 2, identify your triggers and raise awareness or mindfulness. If people aren't journaling as of yet, I highly, highly recommend it. And what are we looking for here? We're talking about thinking about your thoughts. So instead of just maybe getting mad at yourself for your thoughts or just taking them as absolute, think about them. So instead of just having, okay, the thought, okay, I should eat chocolate right now. Think about that. Okay, well, what is making me feel like I should eat chocolate right now? Did I just have a bad conversation with a loved one? A hard conversation? And is my go-to usually eating chocolate? Okay, well, that makes sense right now that I would want to eat chocolate. Doesn't necessarily mean that I have to, but now I understand what the trigger was, what the thought process was, what the emotions were behind that, and then what the behavior is. So again, identifying thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, and accepting that they are connected, not thinking of our behaviors as this bad thing that comes out of nowhere, understanding that there's triggers that lead to these thoughts and emotions behind our behaviors. And also that our behaviors can affect our thoughts and our emotions. So in terms of potential triggers, things to think about: situations. Do you feel triggered the same place, same time every day? Is it mid-afternoon? Maybe you need a better snack as well. Is there people? There are people that are triggering, and it doesn't mean you can get rid of people in your life, perhaps, or not be at work, whatever it is. But maybe you can identify that as a trigger, and we can replace some of the emotional eating habits or behaviors with something else. Are there learned behaviors? Were you, rewarded by going out for dinner when you were little or having cake? If you were sad, were you given cookies and milk? So think about these things. What are things that maybe you learned as a child or that you've learned as an adult? And then are there specific food triggers? Are there foods that cause you to feel guilty, that cause you to feel emotional? So, for example, does being around ice cream make you feel guilty because you feel like you overeat it? Or does being around broccoli make you feel ugh because every time you go on a diet, you eat way too much broccoli? So think about these things. An action item here would be to create an emotional eating inventory. So time of day, what your thoughts and emotions are, and what your behavior is, or what did you eat? From there, step number 3, find other ways to feed your feelings. Okay, thoughts and emotions and feelings are going to still happen. They're not going to go away by step 2. They're still going to come. However, we can find other things to help quench them that are not food related. So here are a few of my favorite examples. So especially over COVID, a very common one that's come up is boredom. So if you find that that's a really common emotional trigger for you, maybe you can work on learning a new language or reading a book or watch a movie or volunteer somewhere or take your dog or friend's dog for a walk or organize a drawer. It actually feels really good to organize drawers and cupboards. So in terms of what this activity is, it has to be something that you kind of enjoy. If it's something like do laundry and you really hate doing laundry, or like scrub a toilet and you really dislike doing that, or go visit, your great aunt who you don't love visiting, you're probably not going to do those things. So it needs to be something you actually kind of enjoy in order for it to be a kind of replacement for boredom. In your handout, there's some additional ideas as well. Stress. So this is a really common one as well. Take a 5-minute break and close your eyes. Put your feet up. Even a 1-minute break, even 5 deep breaths can do it. At night, if it hits you at night, take a bath, meditate, go for a walk. Whatever you need to do to actually address the stress. Lonely. Schedule walks, call a friend, have a regular FaceTime date, join reading groups, whatever you need to do. If you want to celebrate, so say you just got a new promotion or you just hit 500 classes on the Peloton app, buy yourself some new gym shoes, dance, do your happy dance. I bought this from my daughter. We did the happy dance a lot. Make a special romantic scavenger hunt. So there's so many other things that we can do to celebrate. It's not that celebrating with food is necessarily bad, but I think we just need to open up our options, that maybe we do celebrate with a dinner out, but we also find other ways of celebrating as well. The key is to find something that you'll enjoy and not regret afterwards for any of these. So action items here. I want you to create your own list of these activities and keep them on hand. If you typically go to your pantry, I want you to make this list and I want you to stick it on your pantry. So you open your pantry and next to the chocolate is this list, or maybe move that chocolate. And the list is just sitting there. And so just that constant reminder, oh, right, this is something else. Maybe put it in your work schedule. So if you know like afternoons are problematic time for you, put it in your schedule. Hey, go for a little walk, do some deep breaths, drink some water, whatever you need to do. So step 4, this is a really tough one. Pause when a craving hits, and it will. So why do we need to pause? Quite often, again, we have trigger reaction. It's only when we pause that we have time to reflect, that we have time to do other things. I say set a timer for 5 minutes when the craving hits, but even if you start with one day 10 seconds, the next day 20 seconds, just keeping working up from there, soon you're going to be up to 5 minutes, 20 minutes. Try to find an activity from step number 3 that you can do in the meantime. And then if you've figured out what that trigger is, try to eliminate it. So if the trigger is having chocolates on your desk, take them off of your desk, put them somewhere else, get rid of them. Remove yourself from the situation if possible. I understand it's not always possible, but if you can, try to remove yourself from that triggering situation. Other things that you can do when we're pausing, you can journal, distract yourself, drink water or herbal tea. If the craving persists, so say you've gone for a 20-minute walk, you come back and you're like, you know what, I still want a piece of chocolate. I've had a healthy, balanced meal, brushed my teeth, did so many things. Have a little bit of it. There is nothing the matter with having some chocolate if it's intentional and planned, and you will not feel guilty for having it. It's when it's not intentional, when it's not planned, when we overeat it, that we feel guilty. Step number 5, practice intuitive eating. Okay, this one is not easy as well. It definitely takes some practice. We could talk about intuitive eating for hours. So what is intuitive eating? It's listening to your body. It's listening to your body in terms of the physiology, hunger and satiety cues, listening to how you feel when you eat certain foods. So it's paying attention versus kind of just reacting to situational and emotional cues. So for example, it's noon. Stop and think, like, how do I feel? Like, am I hungry? Am I actually over hungry? Should I have eaten at 11? Would I have made better choices if I did that? If I'm not really hungry right now, I'm just eating for the fun of it. Maybe I should go for a walk instead. Yeah, it's really paying attention to how your body feels, not those other clues or food rules or potential diet plans or food plans. So listening to what feels good. It includes mindful eating. And for mindful eating, I want everybody to try this today, using all of our senses. So before eating something, it's looking at it and thinking, how does this make me feel? It's smelling it. It's tasting it. It's moving around our mouth and feeling how it feels in our mouth. It's tasting in different parts of our tongue. It's crunching on it. It's seeing how it feels as we swallow it. So give it a try. And with intuitive and mindful eating, you can really have just that one square of dark chocolate or whatever it is and be satisfied. I promise you, you can. It takes some work. We're not going to go through the activity today, but there is a mindful eating activity that we could often do, that is that let's taste and smell and think about the food that we're consuming. Another thing with practicing intuitive eating is giving yourself unconditional permission to eat whatever you like without guilt and deprivation. So if you have been wanting a burger all week, or sushi all week, it's sitting down and saying, like, I've wanted this, I'm going to eat this. I'm not going to feel guilty. I'm not going to beat myself up for this. It's really allowing you to have food freedom. And for a lot of clients that I work with, that's really my goal, is to give them freedom from food so they don't feel attached to any one thing and they can make choices that are aligned with their goals. It's to stop this food fight cycle. And what is this food fight cycle? And you probably see it in children, but we do it as adults as well. So it's that I can't have this bad food. I can't have the chocolate. I can't have it. And then you see everybody else eating chocolate and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't have this. This is so terrible. Everybody else can eat it and they don't gain weight. I can't eat it because I'm going to gain weight, which leads you just to want that chocolate even more. If you've done this with children, you know they're going to come back and want more and more and more. And then once they're alone or once you're alone, it's, I'm going to eat all of this chocolate. And then there's those feelings of guilt, disgust. I can't eat it anymore. So that's the food fight cycle that intuitive eating helps us get away from. So this is a quick kind of to do and to don't list for overcoming problematic eating. So things to work on: eat balanced meals and stay well hydrated. Help to address that true stomach hunger. Shop smart and renovate your dining area. What do I mean by that? Make sure that you have food stock that you want to eat, and foods that you don't want to eat, don't stock them. Don't keep them on your counter. Don't keep them in the lunchroom. Don't keep them on your desk. Maybe if you do want to eat more salads, maybe get a salad spinner or something to display salad or some nice salad dishes. Nurture yourself versus nourish yourself. So when you have those emotions happen, don't just deny them and don't just go for food. You deserve to be nurtured. Find other ways of nurturing yourself, whether it's having a hot bath, maybe you're watching some TV, if that's nurturing to you, whatever it is, calling a friend, doing something fun. Establish enjoyable evening rituals and eat mindfully. I usually find evenings to be a really, really tough time for emotional eating. So try to come up with some good rituals, things that you do in the evening. Ambush your triggers, figure out what they are, get rid of them. Journaling, so helpful. And think of changes to eating as a lifestyle change, not a diet. The not to-do list: eat while engaging in distracted behaviors. So eating in front of screens, try not to. I know everybody's like, oh my gosh, I'm eating lunch right now. It's okay, we're talking about emotional eating. Glad you're here. But for the most part, try to eat without devices. Don't beat yourself up when you lapse. Don't give into that all or none thinking. Really, there is no, unless you have like food allergy, there really is no diet that is really all or none. Don't expect changes to be immediate. It's a process with peaks and valleys. And don't spin diet programs or challenges unless they are really meaningful to you. So if you do really want to increase your water intake, that's meaningful, and you want to work on it as a team, go ahead, go for it. But if it's really not meaningful to you, just don't do it. And then what are some foods that could possibly help? So low glycemic carbs. Yes, carbs are the first one on there. Protein containing foods, B vitamins, magnesium, and caffeine, maybe, kind of, sort of. Okay, so low glycemic carbohydrates. So what am I talking about here? So they're things like I usually say the 20 or below on the glycemic load chart. So whole grains, fruits, vegetables, legumes, they help to give us some time-released energy to keep our blood sugar levels nice and even so we don't get those dips, and we're able to manage our food intake a little bit better. We're trying to stay away from those high glycemic load things. Again, never having them, just not relying on them as part of our daily diet. Protein. So protein helps moderate stress, helps our immune system. It helps to moderate our blood sugar levels when we have it along with carbohydrates. It also helps from the mental health talk we did. It also helps in creating neurochemicals that can help us with feeling happy. So things that we're looking for, we think of red meat, poultry, fish. but also things like soy milk, cow's milk, plain yogurt, eggs, legumes, tofu, nuts, and seeds. So it doesn't just have to be meat. Protein really should be included at every single meal and most snacks. Lipids, I call fat lipids because people get fat phobic when I tell them to eat some good lipids. So lipids, dietary lipids, especially omega-3s, they're really good for brain health. They're also very satiating. So some foods to include: fatty fish, certain types of oils like olive oil, avocado oil, nuts and seeds, omega-3 rich foods like the omega-3 eggs. They help our brain health, they help us in emotional regulation, and they're enjoyable to eat. They help in satiety as well. Our B vitamins. So B vitamins we basically get from whole intact foods. They help to, they're either part of neurotransmitters, or they help in the production of neurotransmitters. They help with fighting off fatigue and stress. They help us think a little bit better so we can balance our emotions and think about our emotions a little bit better. In terms of some key foods, whole grains, fruits and vegetables, and those high protein foods that I just mentioned as well. Vitamin C has been shown to reduce physical and mental response to stress and boost the immune system. It can help to reduce cortisol levels, which is the stress hormone. So if stress eating is a key form of emotional eating for you, make sure you're getting enough vitamin C. I'm not talking about supplementing here. I'm talking about red peppers, strawberries, citrus. They're really good sources of vitamin C. Vitamin D helps relieve fatigue, irritability, depression. Quite often in the evenings, that fatigue and irritability is a key reason why people emotionally eat, so it helps with that. Yes, we get it from dairy and fatty fish, but this is one area that I would recommend supplementing. Magnesium, involved in transmission of nerve impulses. We know that it plays a role in fatigue, concentration, nervousness. So if those are common emotions for you, optimize your magnesium intake. We also know that cortisol and stress can reduce magnesium levels. So again, we don't need to supplement here. We're talking about whole grain cereals, legumes, green vegetables, especially nuts are great for magnesium. Pumpkin seeds are a great source of magnesium if you want to include some of those in. Okay, what about stimulants and stress? So coffee particularly. So yes, coffee might seem like it helps with stress. It might stimulate you. For some people use it instead of eating. Chocolate, I guess, would fit into here as well. But so that might help with reducing stress in the short term. It might help with creating pleasure in the short term, but in the long run, it's actually going to increase our stress levels. And if we rely on having coffee with, say, some sort of sugary additive to it, and we're not pairing it with a healthy, balanced meal, we're going to get those bottoming of our blood sugar levels. So I'm not saying coffee is bad. I just say it shouldn't be your go-to when you feel stressed. And if you are a coffee drinker, maybe pair it with having some water as well as a healthy, balanced meal or snack. Here are some things to be aware of. I mentioned having more water, making sure that you are pairing it with some foods. Other things, like if you're like, okay, I don't know how to get rid of my coffee consumption, maybe look at switching to things that are actually calming. And these are great in the evening if people have issues with nighttime eating and emotional eating at night, making chamomile tea, verbena tea, orange blossom tea, anything like that. They're nice, calming, hot beverages. In terms of superfoods, I think I've mentioned nuts quite a bit. So they have protein, they have B vitamins, they have some of those healthy fats, they have so many good things. So definitely stock up on nuts. Also legumes, leafy greens, they have some good magnesium as well. Yogurt, good source of B vitamins, good source of protein. they're great vessel for putting other good foods into as well. And then also if it's probiotic yogurts, as we talked about at the mental health talk a little bit, it helps to ease stress, anxiety, depression, which sometimes can lead to emotional eating. So definitely a good superfood. And if you are the type that you like something sweet later at night, maybe do some yogurt with berries instead of ice cream. That's such a typical dietitian suggestion, but it's true. Okay, so just to recap, really the key to overcoming emotional eating and stress eating is awareness. Think about your thoughts, think about your emotions, think about your triggers, instead of just focusing on the food or eating behavior. Start small. So instead of saying, I'm not going to do any more emotional eating, maybe start with honing in on late nights and how you're feeling, or maybe that afternoon dip. Start small, start specific, and then work on things from there. And then reach out if you need help. We do have a 6-week program specifically for emotional eating, but we incorporate it into a lot of what we do as well. And maybe it's speaking up to a dietitian, maybe it's speaking up to some sort of counselor or therapist as well. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Sorry if I'm losing anybody, if you need to get going. And thank you, Mel, so much for facilitating and hosting these.
No problem. And we do have a little bit of time left for questions if people have anything. If anyone else is feeling guilty for either drinking coffee while we do this or eating lunch that might not have matched everything on the list. There might be a few of us in that place, but if anybody has any questions, you can put them in the Q&A or in the chat, and I can make sure that they get to Lisa and we can talk about what we have time for now live, and then anything else we can definitely send out the information after as well. So if there are questions, you can throw them in the Q&A.
This is often an awkward one. Nobody wants to speak up. We all do it though. Including me. I eat in front of my screen sometimes.
Yeah, that's probably one of my worst habits. Is eating as I'm doing stuff. Okay. Oh, so the first question. Okay, so we got a couple. See, they're coming. So the first one that I have is for magnesium. I've heard that there are different types for supplements, and which are best, or does it depend on the person?
It does depend. What I like about getting it in food form is you get different forms of magnesium. So it does depend, like there's citrate, glycinate. Part of it depends on, do you need it for helping with bowel movement? I typically do recommend a bit of a mixed magnesium supplement if you are looking at a supplement, but if you can focus on food first, that would be fabulous. And then you're getting a mixed form of different magnesiums.
Awesome. And then there was a question about how much does the 6-week program cost? And I'll say, one, we're going to send out obviously this information from the webinar in email to everybody who registered afterwards. So we'll definitely include access to the website and all of those things there as well. But obviously, Lisa, you can answer the question as well.
Yeah, and just connect with me.
Yeah. It's probably the easiest way to do it. And we'll make sure everybody has that information emailed out so that they know how to get a hold of Lisa. Any other questions? I always love the fact that as you say stuff, I'm like, I know these things. I've been told these things.
I know. I even going through this, like I'll even be like I know we have like chocolate Easter eggs like sitting right there. I'm like, well, why would I do that? And then people come over and I have chocolate Easter eggs sitting. Well, that's kind of rude of me. Plus we see them all the time. And they keep disappearing. I don't know. It's crazy.
It's amazing. They just vanish.
Just I don't know. I have no clue where they go. But I know it's such a common thing that we just don't think about.
Totally. Okay, it seems like this one isn't one that's going to have lots of questions because I know this is a hard one,
It's
but
very personal.
we will definitely send out the information on this. Yeah, I think it's a topic that's so valuable for everybody. So we'll email out the information so everybody has it. And then obviously, if you have more questions, you're more than welcome to send them in either via email or reply to the email or reply to the contact information in the email for Lisa. And we will go from there. So stay tuned. We have more great stuff coming up next month, and we will continue to bring you different webinars on financial, emotional, and physical health, and continue to help everybody live a healthy and well lifestyle. So have an awesome, awesome day, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Mel.
Bye, everybody.